All right, my friends, welcome back to Real Estate Bites. This is episode number 118. And today we're going to talk about getting ready for the selling season this upcoming spring. So this is not a new subject, right? Maybe even a bit tired. This is a consultation that I have with sellers pretty much all the time. However, I cannot stress how critically important the content of this today's episode is. If you are looking to sell in the springtime, if you've got friends or family looking to sell in the springtime, share this with them, take notes. This information here will help you to realize a significant return on the time and effort that you put into getting prepared for the market. And some of it's relatively common sense, but some of it maybe are easy. Some of it's things that are easy to overlook. Like, I'll tell you how important this is. I sold a house last year, and I would honestly say that the sellers of this home gave up about 15% of their purchase price because they simply refused to follow the advice that you're going to hear here in episode 118. They probably gave up $30,000. They left $30,000 on the table because they didn't do the things that we're about to talk about. So again, if you or someone you know is considering selling their home this spring, now is the time to start planning. Now is the time to start preparing. Don't wait until springtime to start doing this work because it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be too much. So start right now. Listen to the stuff that I'm about to lay out to you. Put a plan together and start tackling this stuff. So, okay, let me bring this up here. First and foremost, clean and declutter. Clean and declutter. I'm telling you guys right now, there's the old adage, kitchen and bath sell, and it's true. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you have the money to totally renovate your kitchen or bathroom right now, you probably don't need to, right? You probably live a lifestyle, you have an income, you have the means and wherewithal to have what's probably a pretty decent setup right now. And so unless it's like a luxury property that is in bad need of updating, doing a full renovation on a kitchen or a bath is most likely not worth your money. And again, everything's situational. So, I'd need to come see the property to really make a judgment on that. But by and large, you don't need to go so deep as to gut a kitchen and redo it. You're not going to see the return on investment. Where you are going to see a return on investment begins here. Clean and declutter. When buyers walk into a house, what they want to see is clean and fresh. That matters more than anything. Yes, oftentimes, of course, everybody wants to see newer, trendy finishes and stuff like that. If you don't have those, again, it's probably not going to be worthwhile to gut a kitchen, or you don't have the money to just gut the kitchen and redo it. So in lieu of that, you need to clean the hell out of your house, okay? Start with the declutter, all right? And I would start in the places that are the most onerous, the most work, the attic, the basement. You're going to have to go through that stuff sooner or later. So why not begin there? Go through your entire house from top to bottom, label things. What are you keeping? Okay. What is going to go to Goodwill? What's going to friends and family? What do you want to sell? And what goes in the garbage, right? Sort these things out, go through your stuff, sort it out, label it, put it in piles. What are you keeping? What needs to be sold? What goes to Goodwill? What goes to friends and family? What goes in the garbage? And I strongly recommend that you get a family member to do this with you, whether it's a parent, a sibling, or one of your children. Make sure it's somebody in your family who's a straight shooter, because the reason why you've got these things boxed up that you haven't looked at in years is because you couldn't find it within yourself to throw it away. So now you're going through this process. I guarantee you're going to have a hard time parting with some of the stuff that clearly is not that practical in your life if you haven't seen it or touched it in years, right? So have somebody with you who's going to say, look, Ma, look, Dad, no, you don't need to hang on to this. It's not worth it. Give it to so-and-so, sell it. Let's take it to Goodwill, whatever it is. Do it with somebody who's going to shoot you straight and help you make smart decisions when it comes to this, right? All right, so there's that. Then once you have all the stuff that you're going to keep, that you're going to take with you, now it's time to finish the declutter process. So that collection of spoons that you have from every state that you've traveled to in your lifetime, all the precious moments figurines that you've spent years and years purchasing and collecting, and you've got them in the curio cabinet, all those things need to be boxed up and put away. All right. All the personal stuff, the 45 photographs that you have of your family and your extended family, all that stuff needs to be boxed up. You don't want personal stuff. Okay. You don't want pictures of the family. You don't want your collectibles out where other people can see them. Why? Because you want them looking at the house and you want them visualizing them in that house. You don't want them spending time seeing if they have the same precious moments figurines or if they know members of your family that they're looking at in pictures. All right. They're going to be in there for 15 to 30 minutes, right? You want every bit of that time spent considering the house, their lifestyle in it, and whether or not they want to purchase it, and not wasting time looking through your knickknacks. Okay. We could get into staging. I don't want to get into staging. We've done videos about that in the past. You can find it. Let me put this up right here. If you go to that QR code that I just put in the corner, where are we at here? Over here. You could go to my YouTube channel. You could find something about staging in my YouTube channel. We're not going to talk about staging here. So clean and declutter. Very, very important. Next. All right. Paint. You got to paint. I know it's a pain in the ass. Nobody likes to do it. It's very tedious, very monotonous work. But there is no greater return on investment than painting your home. So clean and declutter first, then paint it. Room by room, paint it. If you've done a relatively fresh paint job in the last year, maybe two, and you don't have a bunch of nicks and marks on the wall, maybe you can get away with it. But if it's a loud, bold color, I recommend going with something neutral and something very, very light. An off-white color, I know it's boring, but it makes the room expand and it shows very, very well. Again, people, when buyers go in, they want to see a clean, apparently well-kept home. When it's clean and the walls expanded and it looks bigger, that's even better for you, okay? So paint the interior of the house. Next. This is something that's so often overlooked, and it makes me sad. Curb appeal. Guys, your curb appeal, right, your landscape is the first and last impression that you make on a prospective buyer. As they pull up to the house, if they see a mess, that reflects on who that seller is, who that owner is, right? So if they pull up to the house, and already they're not feeling great about what they see before they ever even stepped in, that emotion carries with them throughout the rest of the visit. Now, maybe the interior has been done well enough that they can overcome that initial impression. But if the interior is not shining, that first impression is going to carry all the way through, and they're probably not coming back. And then once they leave, the last thing they look at as they're driving away is that landscape that's overgrown, unkempt. So take a look at this slide. Here's a great example. You see on the left, it's unkempt, doesn't look so great, lawn's not cut, bushes are overgrown. This is obviously not the same house, but a generally similar looking homes. And you can see when the bushes are cleared out and the facade of the home is opened up, it's just a cleaner and better look. You want as much of the front of the house showing. And even if it means possibly, like these little shrubs here and the way they're trimmed up and stuff, that's pretty good. But, something big and hairy like this, I would get rid of it entirely. You don't need to add a ton of money. You don't need to build new beds. You need to put a nice clean edge on your flower beds. You need to put a nice layer of mulch on everything. You should have a nice edge on all your concretes, all your walks, your driveway, sidewalks. You should put an edge on those, right? And just make it look really sharp and really clean. If you could add some color with some flowers in the springtime, that's fantastic. I mean, June is the best time to sell in Ohio. Everything's green again. The weather's beautiful. We just got over winter. Everyone's super happy to be outside and in a good mood, right? So if you can add some color with some flowers, even if you just put them in pots and you take them with you, add some color, some life, to the front, but definitely put some time and some effort into your landscape. Okay. Now here's the thing, start now. That way it doesn't have to be this overwhelming task, right? Start planning now, set up a calendar. Maybe, in week 1 of February, you're going to pull the stove out. You're going to pull the fridge out. You're going to scrub those appliances inside and out. You're going to clean up behind them. You're going to scrub the walls and the backsplash down, okay. And then week 2, you're going to go into the kitchen again, and you're going to hit the grout in your backsplash, or maybe the tile, and you're going to give it a nice scrub and bring it back to life. All right. Now the kitchen's done. All right. So then week 3 of February, you go into your bathroom, the master bath, or, and do the same thing, scrub everything, clean the grout. The next week, hit the bathroom, the community bath that everybody else uses. It's this kind of thing. Go ahead and write down, use your calendar, write it on the weekends, and plan it out over the next 8 to 12 weeks, everything that you're going to clean in time and then paint, right? That way you can tackle these things one weekend at a time on a schedule and get it all done. Okay. So you're going to spend the rest of January cleaning and decluttering. And then February, March, and April, go ahead and start to really clean up appliances, scrub them down real good, get behind them, get into all the stuff, scrub your backsplashes, scrub your tile, get the grout sparkling white again, all those sorts of things. Take care of all those details. And then late April, early May, hit your landscape. Mid-May, you're ready to list and you're ready to get top dollar for what you've just done. All right. Send this to your friends and family who plan on listing. There's more detail, more nuance to it. That's, the gist of it though. If you have deeper questions, obviously give me a call, bring me on. This is what I do. I'd love to talk to you about it. But start planning now and start preparing now. Do not wait until the agent shows up at April and decide that you want to get everything done and get it on the market by May. You're going to miss details. Okay. You're going to miss details. You're not going to get the whole thing done. If you start doing it now, you can take your time. You can take a very systematic approach. You can make sure that the things are done right. You're probably going to discover small things that you want to spend a little bit of money repairing. But in the end, we're talking about just that. It's a little bit of money, a good amount of time to realize that 15 to 20% that might be lost if you don't do that stuff. And trust me, it will be lost. That same house that I was talking about at the beginning of this episode, where they gave away $30,000, it was the same house, the same exact house, same exact bones, same exact features. I'm telling you, they left 30 grand on the table because they didn't clean up, they didn't declutter, and the house was a mess when people walked in, and they just didn't want to buy it. They didn't want to buy that dirty house. And they lost a lot of money. It was heartbreaking. That transaction was heartbreaking to see those folks lose all that money because they just didn't want to spend the time and energy to clean up, declutter, and do some painting. You're going to spend a few $100s on paint and supplies, maybe another few $100s to spruce up your landscape, and then you're going to spend time. All right. And it'll be time well worth it. If 15% more for the sale of your house is worth it, which it should be worth it, guys. All right. It should be worth it. Don't be lazy. Put the time in and get that 15%. Okay. And sell that house for the best that the market can bring you. All right. That's it for today. With that tip, again, take notes, send it to friends and family. This is super duper important. Make the best money you can. Let's get into statistics for last week's sales. All right. Here we go. Episode 118. This morning, there were 482 single-family residences and condos on the market in Lorain County. Again, I take these stats from the MLS where I work out of. I only look at Lorain County. Lorain County, while different from Cuyahoga, Summit, right? It's still a pretty good representative about what's going on throughout the Midwest, okay? So again, 482 units for sale. You can see that inventory has crept back down a little bit. Inventory is still the name of the game, guys. I don't care what anybody says. As long as we maintain this low inventory, prices, I think, are going to continue to creep up. All right. There were 52 sales last week. Not bad considering this is the holiday week, right? And I mean, obviously, these things went under contract 3 to 4 weeks ago. But we're getting into the holiday season. You're probably going to see these inventory and sales numbers slide even more over the next few weeks and then start to pick back up again in February. The median square feet of homes sold last week was 1,750. Median sale price was $297,500. Median square foot value for homes sold last week, $155.87. So let's take a little aside before we hit the rest of these stats. That median square foot value is what I have been tracking now for almost 2 years to try to figure out what's going on real time with home prices. And I've been talking about it for weeks now because I just saw it in the numbers. It was pretty obvious that we were going to see a correction in sale prices. So the average median square foot value of homes sold in Q4 2025 was $167.19. That is down from Q3, where we are at $175.54. Okay. That is a 5% correction. Let me shrink that up a bit so you can see both numbers. That is a nearly 5% correction from Q3 to Q4. All right. We saw it coming. We talked about it a lot on this show. That said, this 167.19 is still about 1.5% appreciation year over year. So Q4 2024, we are right around I think it was 164. And here we're at 167.19, 1.5% to 2%. We are still seeing price growth. And this happens every single Q4, guys. Every single winter, we see a little bit of dip in sales volume and pricing, all that kind of stuff. So do I think this is a long-term trend? I do not. I think the market will rebound as we start to move into Q2 of 2026, and we'll see prices begin to creep up again. Unless we see that inventory number over here, unless we see that thing really start to jump up. But again, I don't see how that's happening. There's only 2 ways it happens. More homes are built, right? Which takes time, a lot of time. Doesn't happen in 3 months, that's for sure. Or we have some black swan event, which is an economic downturn that is significant, that's scary, that put a lot of people in distress. And even then, right, we're talking about a couple of years before we see inventory really, really rebound. The last big episode that we saw that was sustained at all, obviously, was the GFC back in 2008 and 9. It wasn't until 2012 when we reached the bottom of that market and we saw the greatest amount of inventory and the greatest downward pressure on pricing. All right. It took 3 years to hit the bottom, and then it took another, 7 years to really stabilize again. I don't think it was until 2018, 2019 till we saw a balanced market again. And then, of course, March 2020, we have the pandemic and government reactions everywhere, and we all know that story. Okay. So, all right, moving on here. Median days on market for homes that sold last week was 31. You can see that number has been pretty consistent for the last 5 weeks. Demand shrank a little bit. Buyers are a little more skittish, a little more wary coming into the final stretch of the year. 6.2% was the interest rate on a 30-year conventional note as of this morning. And then the big sale of the week was $900,000 on Evergreen Drive in Avon. We're going to go on over to Zillow and we'll take a look at what $900,000 will get you over in Avon. All right. So this is 5 beds, 5 bathrooms, 5,829 square feet. Now that includes the finished basement, right, which is not supposed to be counted as your finished square footage, living space, but Zillow aggregates that information when it's fed up from our MLS. Okay. Our MLS records both above ground finished square feet and below ground finished square feet, not living space, but finished square feet. Zillow and Realtor both smash those numbers together. That's where you get this near 6,000 square feet. So anyways, take a look. Curb appeal, they nailed it here. That's beautiful, right? However, I wonder if they couldn't have got another $50,000, $60,000 if they had done a little more updating. This is that luxury home where it's probably worth some time and to put a little bit of money into updates. But to drop this wallpaper, this lime green, everything, I know it's silly, guys, but I see buyers go into homes and they'll see a lime green wall like that. They'll see a bunch of wallpaper like this, right? Well, that's not even lime green. That's yellow. Look, lime green there. And it's yellow here. They'll see this paint. They'll see this wallpaper. And despite how quality the home actually is, despite how many boxes it checks for their lifestyle and what they're looking for in a home, they will walk away from that house because they don't want to do the work of pulling that wallpaper down and or repainting. They either don't want to do the work themselves or they don't want to spend the money to hire somebody to do it. They'll walk away from a house, right? Now, obviously, if the folks are shopping for a $900,000 home, they probably have the wherewithal to hire a painter to come in and change this. I'm sure that they did that. They probably even did it before they ever moved in. Point is this: if you're shopping for a $220,000 house, do you have the money to hire that painter? So the whole point of this thing is take that silliness away from the buyer and their emotions when they're in your house and they're considering shopping and buying your house for themselves. Eliminate the possibility of them going, ew, I don't like the color of those walls. Ew, I don't like all this wallpaper. I don't want to have to deal with that, right? Eliminate that from their decision-making process. And maybe they write an offer, and maybe they write a damn good offer. Maybe they write a better offer than the next guy, right? Maybe you get 4 people who come through. Every single one of them walk away because of the amount of wallpaper in your house. Maybe all 4 write an offer. If the wallpaper's gone, you've cleaned, you've decluttered, you've repainted, and you've gotten that house market ready. That's reality, okay? That's reality. I see the buyers do it all the time. Buyers, against my advice, will overpay because the finishes look trendy and modern. They will walk away from a great house that has a bunch of wallpaper and grandma's finishes and outdated paint, right? They'll walk away from a good house and overpay for a not as good house that has trendy, clean finishes, okay? Because why? Again, we're dealing with people's emotions. They want to invite all of their friends and family the very first weekend, have the party, have the housewarming party, and say, look what we just bought, guys. Isn't it great? Please send us the compliments. That's what they want to do. They want to move their stuff in, unpack everything, organize everything, throw the party, have the friends come over, listen to their friends, compliment their decision-making, compliment their new place, right? They don't want to be embarrassed because we bought this house that's filled with 1987 wallpaper, okay? Nor do they want to buy the house and not have that party for the first 3 or 4 months they're in there because they're busy redoing all of the walls in the house. All right, back to this, guys. So big, beautiful master bath. I love that, right? This is the kind of thing. Could they have spent $15,000 to $20,000 and got upgraded countertops, hardware on these cabinets, right? Hardware on the tub. Change this, change your light fixtures, take the wallpaper down, put a neutral coat up. I think in a home like this, that sort of expense is worthwhile. I definitely think you see more money, you see a greater return if you're updating a bathroom like this in a house like this, okay? Again, green with wallpaper trim, purple. I don't blame it. I've got colored walls in my house, but if I'm going to sell it, I'm painting it. I'm getting rid of purple. I'm getting rid of green, and these walls are going to be an off-white color. They're going to grow. They're going to be bigger. They're going to be fresh and clean looking, right? This big, beautiful pool out back. It's a beautiful home, beautiful property, absolutely. next to a vineyard here. That was the big sale of the week, 900 grand on Evergreen in Avon. All right. Once again, guys, thank you for joining me. That was Real Estate Bites number 118. Share this. If you know people who want to sell this spring, make sure they see this. Make sure they take notes. Make sure they do this stuff for their own benefit. If they want to have a deeper conversation, hit me up. This is what I do. I love doing it. As always, thank you for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. I'll see you next week.